All right, Shakur Stevenson, in my opinion, does make Gervonta Davis look easy if they were to fight right now, today, whether it's at 135 or at 140. And let me explain. So, Shakur Stevenson is obviously the current WBO and the ring champion at 140. Meanwhile, Gervonta Davis is the WBA champion in recess at 135, obviously because of all of the legal issues that he has been dealing with over the past year or so. But let me explain why I think Shakur Stevenson does beat Gervonta Davis right now, and I think he does also make him look easy, just like he did against Teofimo Lopez and his past opponents. Now, to kick things off, I mean, listen, when we talk about the activity, Shakur Stevenson had two fights in 2025, which was against Josh Padley and William Zepeda, two good wins, and obviously most recently he fought Teofimo Lopez in the beginning of this year, and that's his best win. When it comes to Gervonta Davis, his last fight was in March of last year, which was against Lamont Roach, and that fight he did not look exactly great in. His performance was not up to par. People did not expect him to go the distance, and especially to a draw with someone that was quite frankly cherry-picked. Although Lamont Roach was a champion at 130, he is still a cherry-picked opponent because Gervonta Davis was put on a pedestal by pretty much everybody, matching him up with guys like Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney and all these other guys in Lomachenko when he was still around. Just for him to pick Lamont Roach, who was campaigning at 130, boosting him up to 135. People did not expect Lamont Roach to go out there and put on a very good fight and a very good performance where he should have won that fight if you do not count the knockdown in round 9, which obviously that was a knockdown just because you didn't get hit clean or you didn't get, rocked and wobbled and then put down. You still took a knee. Your knee still hit the ground. That means it counts as a knockdown. So if that knockdown counted, then on the scorecards, Lamont Roach wins the fight and it's not a draw. And that was Tank's last performance. When you compare to Shakur Stevens' last performance, which was obviously more recently than Tank's last performance and last fight, that was in the beginning of this year, January 31st, 2026, against Teofimo Lopez. Although a lot of people did predict Shakur Stevenson to win, I also thought he was going to win. Nobody really thought that he was going to make Teofimo Lopez look that easy. We're talking about the same guy that had beaten people like Masayoshi Nakatani, Richard Comey, Vasily Lomachenko, Jermaine Ortiz, Josh Taylor. We're talking about, a guy that was one of the best, if not the best, at 135 for such a long time. And obviously his only loss came to George Kambosos. And it's not like George Kambosos went out there and just destroyed him, right? Like, you could make justifications or excuses, but then again, I don't like to make excuses for Teofimo Lopez. Like, I'm pretty sure he had this esophagus injury going into the fight, and people want to make the excuse that it's because he fought emotionally, but then again, that's on Teofimo Lopez. The fact that he had to fight or he wanted to fight emotionally, that was up to him, but that was his only loss, right? Besides the point, he obviously fought the likes of Lomachenko, Comey, and all these other guys, and he had some great wins. And for Shakur Stevenson to go out there and simply just put on a masterful performance against him and a clinic against him speaks volumes about how good Shakur Stevenson is. When you compare it to Gervonta Davis in his last fight, he did go toe-to-toe with a 130-pounder, moving out to 135. And, if we're going to be completely honest, there's no way that anybody thinks that Lamont Roach is as good as Shakur Stevenson, whether it comes to, offensively or defensively. Maybe offensively you can have an argument, but when it comes to, defensive tactics and mechanics and, the strategy and all that kind of stuff and IQ overall, Shakur Stevenson is one of the best fighters in the world. There's a reason why he's the top 5, in the top 5 pound-for-pound list right now. It doesn't look like anybody could beat this guy. I favor him to beat pretty much everyone at 135 to 147, including Devin Haney as well, including Ryan Garcia, including Rowley, Conor Benn, all these other guys. Even in his weight class, I do favor him to beat the guys like, Gary Russell, Alberto Puello, all these other guys. For someone like Gervonta Davis, like, his best win is Ryan Garcia, and it's not even the best version of Ryan Garcia because obviously Gervonta Davis had imposed the rehydration clause on him, which obviously, in my opinion, affected the performance of Ryan Garcia. I'm not saying that that's an excuse because Ryan Garcia, at the end of the day, did take the fight regardless. Like, I know he wants to make that excuse as to why he lost, but it's like, ultimately, you did accept the fight with those stipulations in the contract, right? But the fact that that's Gervonta Davis's best performance or best win, and when you compare it to Shakur's best win, which was, a shutout performance against a better, more credible opponent than Ryan Garcia, and obviously we could sit here and compare the resumes, but we could also talk about the stylistic differences between those two. Now, Gervonta Davis, as much as he is known as, the knockout artist, the massive power puncher by the casual audience. If you do watch his fights, he is very calculative. He is very calibrated. He has a high fight IQ, but his fight IQ does not even come close, in my opinion, to Shakur Stevenson's. Like, he does tend to give up rounds, and even against someone like Frank Martin, but then eventually he does catch you in the later rounds. I feel like for the most part, the majority of the opponents that he fought, they fought scared. Meanwhile, Shakur Stevenson, of course, he's going to be wary of the power, but it's like he's not going to be someone that's just going to be like running around the ring. And I don't think he's going to, show up the way he showed up against Edwin De Los Santos. I feel like that was a one and done performance where he realized that like that was a completely terrible performance from him. And I know Gervonta Davis, in my opinion, obviously he's more dangerous than Edwin De Los Santos, but it's like when you look at Shakur Stevenson's footwork and the fact that he barely gets hit, and he's one of the best fighters at perfecting the idea of hitting and not getting hit. His defensive work is just like no other, right? Like if you ask anybody right now who is the best defensive boxer in the world right now, most of them would tell you it's Shakur Stevenson. Like obviously some would say it's Alexander Usyk is up there as well, Devin Haney, but Shakur Stevenson, I think, is the best at that. And I just don't see Gervonta Davis knocking him out. If he was not able to knock out someone like Isaac Cruz and Lamar Roach, who are nowhere near on the level of Shakur Stevenson when it comes to the defensive ability, I don't think he knocks out Shakur Stevenson. And besides the point, Shakur has not really shown any sign of weakness or any sign of, like, let's say, his chin deteriorating, because he doesn't get hit often. And even when he does get hit, it's not like he has a bad chin. He doesn't have a bad chin. He has a good chin. So I don't see Gervonta Davis going out there and just simply cutting off the ring on someone that has a really great great footwork skills. I don't see him knocking out Shakur Stevenson, and there's no way he outboxes Shakur Stevenson. I think this fight, is the reason why Gervonta's not going to take it, is because he knows, in my opinion, that what's most likely going to happen is the fact that Shakur is just going to make him look silly. He's not going to make this fight look super entertaining, because I don't think Shakur is going to go out there and fight Tank the way he fought William Zepeda and trade punches on the inside, because obviously Zepeda is not known for his power. He's more known for his volume and output. So I don't think he's going to go out there and trade with Gervonta, obviously, but he is going to be using his jab to his advantage. He's going to keep circling around and just make him miss, make him pay, counter him, get him pissed off. And obviously Shakur being taller and lengthier with a, longer reach than Gervonta, I feel like he will use that to the best of his ability and advantage. And just overall, when you consider everything else, like he's more active, better fight IQ. And Gervonta in his last fight, I don't want to say he got exposed or fraud checked, but like he was always known as this guy that was like feared on the inside. Like no one wants to exchange with him. And then Lamar Roach, who's a 130-pounder moving up, was able to trade shots with him on the inside. I'm not saying Shakur Stevenson will do the same thing, because obviously he's different from Lamar Roach, but it's just I trust in his skills to beat pretty much everybody, especially Gervonta right now, who's inactive, dealing with the legal issues, stuff like that. Maybe if Gervonta comes back and stacks up a couple of wins, maybe it will be more, closer on paper. But it's just like I don't like his chances in this fight, and especially because even if you think that Gervonta does win this fight, which is not crazy to say, because Gervonta is also undefeated, just like Shakur. It's just like Gervonta, I remember in one of his past tweets, he said that he had signed a 7-fight deal, and one of them, or he has like a 7-fight plan, and in that plan, Shakur Stevenson is a part of it, he's involved, but then like in the build-up towards the Lamar Roach fight, the reporters and the interviewers asked him, like, are you going to fight Shakur? And he was like, nah, what has he done in this sport for me to fight him? But then he simultaneously turns around and fights Frank Martin and Lamar Roach and all these other guys who are not greater or more credible than Shakur in this game. So to me, I feel like he's looking for excuses. I feel like he knows that if this fight happens, he will look silly. It's not going to end up being, an aesthetically good fight to look at. It's just going to be Shakur Stevenson, jabbing him around, making him miss, making him pay, being too fast, being too smart for him to handle. And I feel like, by the time that fight ends, Gervonta, I think, will inevitably lose a unanimous decision. And I feel like his stocks will go down, because a lot of people look at him as someone that's like damn near invincible. I'm looking at his fans saying that, like, he beats Crawford and all that kind of stuff, which is ridiculous, because Gervonta, what he's good at is also cherry-picking opponents, right? Like, he hasn't beaten someone that's, like, very elite, he was supposed to fight guys like Lomachenko. He didn't want to fight him. Shakur Stevenson called him out. He didn't want to fight him. It's like he avoids those kinds of fights, where he knows that it's going to be 50-50 going into it, or he might be an underdog going into it. So he avoids these kinds of fights. And if he is not confident that he could beat those guys, I can't pick him to win. And you shouldn't too as well. Even if you think, okay, stylistically he has a very good chance, if he's not confident that he could beat Shakur, so why should you be confident in him beating Shakur? So it's like, I don't know. Like, I get that Gervonta wants to fight purely for the money and, he wants to be a part of the big fights and he doesn't want to chase belts. Shakur Stevenson is the biggest fight to make for Gervonta. Realistically speaking, like if he comes back and fights anybody else other than Shakur, it's not going to be as big as him fighting Shakur. So not only is that fight going to be massive for his legacy, even when it comes to the, drawability side of things and, when it comes to, public attention, the casual audience, tuning in, that is the biggest fight to make for Gervonta, and he doesn't want to take that fight. So, in my opinion, Shakur Stevenson is going to make Gervonta look easy if they do fight right now. I think he's just obviously more active. I think he's, progressing and developing at a rapid pace. I did not expect him to look that good and that dominant against, someone like Teofimo Lopez, who, again, people want to degrade him right now, but it's because, he lost to Shakur Stevenson. But let's not forget that Teofimo was the guy that handed Lomachenko his loss in his prime, and he beat all these other great opponents, Jermaine Ortiz, Josh Taylor. It's like, and Shakur made him look easy. So, yeah, I'm just going off of what I'm seeing. I'm not trying to be biased. I'm just, displaying my, opinions, I guess. So let me know what you guys think. If you agree, disagree, comment down below, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.